What does a successful I-40 TradePort Corridor mean in Sandoval, in Bernalillo, in Los Lunas, in Kingman, in Winslow, for GLDPartners, who's been leading this effort? So we'll start with you, Lois, and work our way down.
We are looking at public-private partnerships with this project differently than what Department of Transportation goes out and builds a road. We're talking about building numerous roads in a system. So our definition of public-private partnership has to be much broader than what we typically think about. And so we're hoping that that as we go through this, that we can roll with it and we get a broader definition so that everybody can participate, and not that the rules get easier, but it gets easier to understand how this very unique public-private partnership sitting up here can do numerous projects at one time as P3 projects. I can't tell you what pleasure it gives me being here and seeing this in action. It's just amazing that in 1 year, we have accomplished what we've accomplished on this I-40 corridor.
Now, the Central New Mexico Rail Park is our next major area of growth. So right now, Amazon is fairly close to that. It's not in the Central New Mexico Rail Park, but to Carl's point, when we were out visiting the area and we were able to see the rail park, we have had a lot of interest from a lot of big users, specifically manufacturers that want to use that rail component to bring in their goods, assemble them, and then ultimately get them back out into the market. So New Mexico Highway 6 does connect to I-40 as soon as you get about 20 miles out by Laguna Pueblo. So we are a vein off of the main artery of I-40. And I believe that that's why Walmart and Amazon have picked Los Lunas as a very strategic point for logistics, distribution, and warehousing. So as the I-40 TradePort Corridor grows, so will Los Lunas and our overall connectivity to the metro region.
This is part of our play to not necessarily have a direct benefit right now, but for the future and for future growth throughout the west side of Albuquerque, as well as Rio Rancho in southern Sandoval County. That connector would also help us connect a lot of tribal nations. Sandoval County has 12 different tribal nations within it, and it's second in the United States as far as active tribal nations, probably first if you really call it active tribal nations. And so we have a lot of different communities of different economic means, and some of them relatively limited. This would be a connector to jobs on the west side of Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, and Sandoval County.
Here at Bernalillo County, we've looked to that we're constrained to the resources that we have. So how do we build for the future? And that's where even a number of years ago, we invested in the rail spur in Los Lunas, taking money outside of our county and investing into another county, and realizing that a lot of the big infrastructure that we need on our west side of Albuquerque, where a lot of job creation can happen, couldn't happen unless we had a big enough project. So that's why we reached out to our partners at Sandoval County and saying, you need this for your type of development that you want, and we need this for our development. We need to work together. And then that's where we brought in the private sector and bringing in Lois and Adam and saying, we know this needs to be a private sector play as well, because we can't afford it ourselves, and we need to be able to have a big enough attraction to be able also getting some federal dollars in. So that's where we formed the TradePort Corridor piece. So we see that a true win of a successful story is that each of the hubs is working accordingly, that we are able to build the infrastructure needs we have, and then we're able to attract the private partners that we want to be successfully having the job creation and the flourishing of our communities. And further, it, for me, is that a successful I-40 TradePort Corridor doesn't end here in Albuquerque. We push on to Oklahoma, we push on to further states, and making this system, as Adam's talking about, that we've harnessed here, and this pearl string of activity and renewable energy pieces doesn't just end here in Albuquerque, but continues to ripple through the country to make our country more efficient as a whole.
From this project specifically, what I think is unique and is really just a huge positive for Winslow in general is twofold. One is it's expanding and improving one of Winslow's most perfect assets, or I guess what will become its most perfect asset, and that's its logistics corridor. We have the I-40. This TradePort is going to strengthen that, the I-40 greatly. We also have the BNSF rail spur, and we have a commercial airport. Those three things are one of the number one things that any company is going to look at. Secondly, this project, whether it's the RAISE grant or all of these great communities working together, it's unique and it's bringing a lot of attention. And that is something that Winslow has sorely missed over the last 50 plus years, is that we've been passed over time and time again. We're a small community. And after I-40 had come in through, we were Route 66 originally, right? I-40 came through, our community started to shrink and shrink and shrink. And it's almost ironic, or I guess funny to some extent, that the I-40 is now giving us a chance to rebirth ourselves.
In Kingman, you're typically about a one-day drive to get into Southern California and back out. We're about 336 miles from the Port of LA. The average truck goes between 400 and 600 miles for deliveries. So that puts us right where you need to be. So when we talk with companies, when companies talk with us, they draw a circle. Here's where we need to get our product to and deliver, and you're located here, and so we can accomplish that. We are the first in this whole string. In order to get us across the U.S., we're going to be the first community that they're gonna come to.
So we all know that this is a multi-state initiative. We all know what the national significance of this project is. We've heard from senior leaders from New Mexico DOT, Arizona DOT, the ports, congressional representatives, the county commissioner. So, all things being considered, what are some of the local challenges to setting up your projects? What's the reason perhaps in Sandoval or in Los Lunas or in Kingman or Winslow why this wouldn't happen?
I think some of the bigger challenges have been that I think we all have local procurement pieces. We all have local ways of doing stuff. So being able to step out of our normal way of business, and just like the secretary and Mr. Roderick were talking about being able to do procurement different pieces differently. And so we've all, because even when we run against some of our local officials here, they're like, "You're going to do what?" and you're going to partner with that. How is that going to work? And so having to explain and peel back the onion with all those different pieces and showing how it can work is a new model of working together, not only as a local government within ourselves, with us three here, but then adding our two folks here to the left here, adding that into it as well as a new element. And so I think it's really a demonstration to be able to show that how things can be done.
But there'll be changes in the environment that we have to deal with. And this isn't a project that's going to happen overnight. This is something that's going to take long-term vision, and you're going to have that synergy, and you're going to have commitment to the project itself and the concept behind it. And it's not a natural thing for individual governments to not compete against each other, but to work and collaborate. I always knew, and I still understand, that a win for Bernalillo County or a win for Albuquerque or a win for Rio Rancho is a win for Sandoval County. It's a win for the region. And what we're trying to do is extend that beyond just New Mexico or just this region to Arizona, to New Mexico, to Texas, Oklahoma.
Property right off of an interchange, where you're going to locate the facility, who owns the property, and then working out the ins and outs of that.
At the same time, we're also working on extending our water, wastewater, and other infrastructure out to the Central New Mexico Rail Park. So it's great that we have a BNSF certified site, but we don't have the other utilities that reach it just yet. But we're getting pretty close in probably the next year, where we can work together as New Mexico and Arizona to better the Southwest region. I think is going to be a win for all of us.
We're really looking for private sector investment in these areas, and we can't lose sight of that. Infrastructure is part of building that environment. And so that's what we're here to do. And I think this partnership is a great step forward to creating environments in all of our communities. It's going to look different in Winslow. It's going to look different in Kingman than it does here in Albuquerque. And it's going to look different in Sandoval County eventually than it does even here in Bernalillo County.
When we talk about P3s, to Lois's point, or public-private collaborations, some of these are going to look like joint ventures, and some may look like what government thinks of as traditional textbook P3. At the same time, we're not looking for the private partner just to help us deliver and operate. We're looking for them to invest as well. If we're talking about a private partner on the logistics side as part of developing the ports complex. That may not have any public money in it. So we're looking to leverage that private investor on the back of other things that we're doing that are physically next to that, or other things we're doing in the trade port in Kingman or Winslow, or part of the whole system, which includes Albuquerque, that gives that private investor confidence.
Before the first trade port project came through my program's pipeline, I'd never heard of a trade port, right? The concept of it was completely foreign to me. And I think as these things are built out, that won't be the case. But also for all the things we've already acknowledged, right? I think you all are a great model and example of partnerships, right? And the power of partnerships and how those things really do drive these priorities forward. I think without your partnerships being as strong as they are, this project probably wouldn't even be this advanced, right? So just kudos to this team from my small perch. You all are very inspiring. I think this project is very inspiring. And I look forward to continuing to hopefully be a part of it and hopefully having our program support it to the very small degree to which we've supported it. So,
how do we take this from the paper to reality and putting steel on the ground and making it work, and the infrastructure and the attraction of the private dollars to make these trade ports working for our communities, for our counties, states, and the nation?